Okay, guys. Hey, it's your boy GD back with the All Things Basketball with GD podcast. And guys, we got a special show, this show here. So I want you definitely to brace yourself. I am coming to you from Cancun, Mexico, doing my Cinco de Mayo episode. So yeah, guys, a little vacay. So I said, you know what? Why let a vacation get in the way of playoff basketball that's going on? So here it is. So it's your boy GD here. And what we're going to do in this episode, we are going to go through the Western Conference. Everything is done and completed now, guys. So we will go through the first round, recap that, what's next for the teams that have been eliminated, and then we'll do previews of the conference semifinals that's coming up. So let us get right into it, guys. First, we will talk about the Denver Nuggets taking down the LA Lakers. Of course, Denver Nuggets were the 2 seed, and the Lakers were the 7th seed. Mind you, guys, a lot of people are saying, oh, maybe the Lakers should have lost that first game so they could avoid Denver and try and play the Oklahoma City Thunder, and maybe they have a better advantage. But no, the Lakers said, hey, we want all the smoke. So they said, let's get into it and let's deal with the defending champions. So in life, they say you get what you ask for. This is what you asked for, so this is what it is. So when all was said and done, the Lakers were ousted in 5 games. Here's how it went down, guys. Denver in game 1, of course, Denver being the home team, they take that 114 to 103. And then in game 2, a game, mind you, that the Lakers were up by 20, guys, and they end up losing that one, 101 to 99. Then we head to the crypto arena, where the Lakers play. And then Denver in that game 3, they come in there, whip butt, and take names. Game 3, they win 112, 105. And then in game 4, Lakers kind of redeem themselves, dust themselves off, and they take that game 119 to 108. And then in game 5, back in Denver, back in their comfy confines, the Nuggets take care of business, 108 to 106. Mind you guys, think about this. The Lakers in all 5 games, they led at the half. So that just tells you that basically Denver went not unafraid, go into the second half, ready to take care of business, and they did just that. So you got to take your hat off to them. In the series for Denver, of course, things begin and end with the big man, the Joker, who had a fine series, averaging nearly a triple-double with his over 28 points, over 16 rebounds, and nearly 10 assists for him. Jamal Murray, who didn't have such a great series, guys. I know he was second in scoring for the team, but he didn't shoot all that great, guys. But I tell you, the one guy who really shined in this series, that was Michael Porter Jr. And then you got to think about this. All that's going on with his brothers off the court, all that they're dealing with, the one brother who got banned from the league because of gambling. The other brother got caught in a drunk driving incident. And then another brother, he's having troubles as well. But seemed like Michael Porter Jr. is locked in. He's locked in and ready to go. So, and he had a fine series. On the Lakers side, of course, LeBron James is going to lead the way. He's going to be the catalyst, which he was in this series. And Anthony Davis, you can't fault him. He had a fine series, I thought. But not enough help, guys. The guy you would look at is Austin Reeves, who, for a third wheel, he's okay, he's fine, but you need it from other guys. D'Angelo Russell, he's so hot and cold, guys. He actually had an over game in this series. You can't do that. You just can't. So, yeah, but I tell you, it was what I thought it was, to be honest with you. I knew Denver would take care of them. It was just a matter of when. How Denver won this series, the second half adjustments, and the execution within that, guys. They were never flustered. They were never down on themselves. And they took care of business in the second half. You got to give them credit for that. And then also, as I just mentioned, Michael Porter Jr., I thought he was the X factor in this series for them, guys. He really came to play. So definitely got to give kudos to them in that regard. And how the Lakers lost this series, their inability to close out these games. They just didn't have it, guys. And, you could say, and then I think I've said this, I said this beginning of the season, actually, going into the season, that LeBron, as great as he is, and he's great, guys, but the numbers he puts up now, it doesn't translate to wins anymore. And that's the problem. And I think that he needed to take a step back and let this be Anthony Davis's team, and he'd be more of a supporter to Anthony Davis. And I think the truth bears it out, to be honest with you. When all is said and done, this should be an Anthony Davis team with LeBron supporting him. But it seems like LeBron, he just can't help himself. He's got to be the one out in front. So that's a problem. And then you need more consistency from your supporting cast. You needed guys like Rui Hachimura to really give you something. You needed D'Angelo Russell. He's just too hot cold, man. I mean, you can't go over at home. You can't do it. You just can't do it. And I know it's frustrating for Laker fans, but yeah, that's not good. And again, Jamal Murray didn't have such a great series in terms of shooting, but still, he was able to will them to a few of these wins. So you just can't let that happen, guys. So with that said, and then I thought too, a factor in this series, you, it would have been nice to have a healthy Jared Vanderbilt. Remember, he was that guy who would take on your toughest defender. He would be the tough defender taking on your toughest offensive player. In this case, it would have been Michael Porter Jr. You needed somebody to stop this guy. He was running roughshod over the whole squad over there. So if you had a Jared Vanderbilt, I think this would have been a closer series. Would the Lakers would they have won this series if they had Vanderbilt? I don't know if I say that, but it would have been a tougher series. But these things happen. So Denver advances. They go to the conference semifinals. As for the Lakers, well, what's next for them? Well, word has come down, guys. Darvin Ham has been the sacrificial lamb. He is now out as coach. And then you got to say to yourself, I know what Anthony Davis said after game 2, I believe it was, where he said it didn't seem like we know what we were doing out there. That's not a good look. And that kind of commentary kills your coach. So that's bad. But how is it a guy who wins his in-season tournament, by the way, he does that. How does that guy who last year got the team into that second round there, how does he all of a sudden become a bad coach? I don't get that. So, and then now, who do you get as a coach? I don't think it'll be Tyronn Lue. I'll talk about the Clippers in a little while, but I don't see it being him. JJ Redick is a name that's being bandied about. I don't see that because you know him and LeBron has their podcast now, so I don't even see how that could even shake out. Mike Budenholzer is out there. Maybe you consider him. I can't even mention the name Mark Jackson because I think it's to a point where his name gets mentioned but never considered. That's a whole story for another day. But where do you go for a coach? Because you need a coach that LeBron respects, and that's gonna the guys in the locker room are gonna sit up and take notice of. And is that guy out there? I don't know if he is. So it's a tough situation. And then also you got to think about free agency. Right now you got guys like Torian Prince. He's a free agent. He's making 5.5 million. So what do you do with him? Spencer Dinwiddie. He came over. They because he was eventually dealt, I believe, and then cut. So they picked him up on a after he got bought out. So he was only making 1.5. Matt Christie making 1.7. Then you got guys with player options, and namely LeBron James. He has a player option next year for over 51 million. Will he opt into that? Will they extend him, give him a he's looking at a 9-figure contract. Will he get that? I don't know. I really can't answer that. I don't know. But he has a player option, guys. So we'll see there. If they draft Bronny, will he come back? I can't even speculate about that. And it's still ridiculous to me that Bronny's even in the NBA draft discussion, but I'll leave that there. Then you got guys like Christian Wood, who missed the bulk of the season. He has a player option at 3 million. Jackson Hayes, who you barely used, he has a player option as well. And Cam Reddish, who I don't even know what happened to him. But so the Lakers, and then remember two guys, they were eighth in salary, so you're going to be paying Anthony Davis a boatload of money now. I don't know what Jeannie Buss does. I don't know what she does from here, but we'll see what happens. But the Lakers, it's a hot mess, guys. There's no two ways around it. Do you try and deal D'Angelo Russell, who also he has a player option at 18.6 million? So there's also that, and I think Laker Nation is fed up with D'Angelo Russell at this point. So I think the Lakers, in many ways, are going to look very different next year, starting with the head coach. Go figure. So we'll leave that right there. And then you have the number 3 Minnesota Timberwolves facing the number 6 Phoenix Suns, and they swept them out of the series, out of their series, guys. Four game sweep, and in those games, Minnesota playing at home the first two games. First game, 120-95. Then in game two, 105-93. Then they go to Phoenix, where it didn't even matter to them. They took care of business in both of those games, winning 126 to 109, game three, and then 122 to 116. And the closer games of all the games in the series against the Phoenix Suns. And then, guys, I think two major factors in this series rebounding. Minnesota absolutely killed them on the boards uh, at an advantage of 14 rebounds more that they grabbed over the Phoenix Suns. Also, two point differential. They had a 15-point win margin average in this series. So I had said I had predicted Minnesota would win this series. I threw out all that I knew about Phoenix winning all three games in the regular season. It was just something about Minnesota that led me to say I think they're going to win this series. I didn't see a sweep though. I was stunned about that, but then again, I shouldn't have been because Phoenix. I'll talk about it in a minute. On the Minnesota side, Anthony Edwards, he has shown himself to be the superstar that we think he is. I understand. I hear everybody's talking about Michael Jordan uh, and the comparisons to him. I would say pump the brakes a little bit. Let us let me see him get to the NBA Finals before I start talking to Jordan talk. I understand he has the moxie, he has the way he carries himself, but I would say pump the brakes first with the MJ talk. That's what I would say. And then you have Carl Anthony Towns, who I give a great deal of credit, guys, because many other guys would bristle at the fact of a young upstart coming in and taking over that team, but he's handled it pretty well, I must say. And he's been very supportive. He had a very good series for this team. And you got to take your hats off to Carl Anthony Towns because right now he is a very solid number two when you're looking at the grand scheme of things. So definitely kudos to him. And then Rudy Gobert, he had a nice series. In fact, he dominated inside in this series, averaging a double double. And then you got guys like Jaden McDaniels, who in one of these games he had a career game for him, and he's starting to show himself. And then of course you got guys like Nikhil Alexander Walker coming off the bench, being strong for them. And then you got the KG veteran and Mike Connolly, who he was the floor general they needed in this series. Definitely didn't have to do too much heavy lifting. And the most important thing, they didn't have to tax their roster in the series. I thought that was key. And then for Phoenix, I think it's the same old song, guys. Uh, Devin Booker led them in scoring. And then you have Kevin Durant, who wasn't too far behind him in that regard. But here's what I'll say about Kevin Durant. And he said it himself, I just want to hoop. He's not going to call people to the carpet. He's leadership is just not in him. And I know guys like Barkley has called him a bus rider and not a bus driver. And I've kind of echoed that sentiment. I think this series speaks great volumes about that criticism of Durant. Durant let Anthony Edwards punk him. He let this young bull punk him in the series. You know, and Durant's another guy where he's going to get his numbers and it's going to look good, but the impact it has on a team winning, I think, is the problem here. And he's going to get his, but will he carry his team over the threshold? That's the major question. And then Bradley Beal, oh my gosh. Not a good series at all. Not for him. And then in that closeout game, only 9 points, guys, on 4 of 13 shooting from the field. I mean, you talk about wetting the bed. And then they owe this guy a ton of money going forward. So the Phoenix is in a tough spot. How Minnesota won the series? Well, I talked about it. Them being in full command on the boards, and then Anthony Edwards, his coming out party. And I think that just sealed the deal. How Phoenix lost the series, there wasn't much else after those three: Booker, KD, and Beal. Joseph Nurkic, he was MIA, guys. Rudy Gobert did whatever he wanted inside. And Nurkic offered no resistance whatsoever. And then what hurt them also was Grayson Allen, him turning his ankle in, I believe it was game 2. And he missed the last 2 games of the series. So not having a guy like Grayson Allen who can knock it down from outside, I think that hurts you as well. So, yeah. So with that said, what's next for Phoenix? Now, even they have coaching issues right now. They're talking about Frank Vogel maybe being one and done because of supposedly underachieving with this ball club. We'll see in the coming weeks if that's the case. It would be unfortunate. And then, like I said, with the Lakers, who do you bring in now? Do you bring in a Budenholzer over there? I don't know. I don't know. But it and then one of my boys, my boy Deke Omar, we were talking about this. It doesn't look so crazy now, when you got rid of a guy of Monty Williams' caliber and you jettison him. I understand he went to Detroit and kind of wet the bed, but the team was bad over there, so I even put it on Monty all the way. But you, you know, a Monty Williams would they have laid down and died like this? Possibly not, but that's all speculation now, guys. And then also, your top 3 is pretty much locked in up until 2025, 2026 season. So there's that to take into consideration. Do you move one of those guys and kind of shore up your depth here? You can't move Beal. I don't think you can move Beal. Booker, you're starting to hear the rumblings. Of course, a guy like Stephen A. Smith is going to talk about him coming to the Knicks. I'll deal with him when I talk about the Knicks, which will be in the Eastern Conference. I'll deal with Stephen A. then. I don't want to deviate right now. But and then Phoenix was 3rd in salary last season. So you talk about a team that's paying a lot of money. Matt Ishbia, he's paying a lot of money to these guys. And it seems like he's one of those owners who's got to have his hands in everything. So it wouldn't shock me if Vogel's out. I think that's the kind of owner this guy is. He just has to ruffle the feathers, so to speak. And then look at your free agents here. You got a few. Royce O'Neal, he made $9.5 million. So will you bring him back? Keon Johnson, young player over there, making barely $3 million, just under $3 million. Bobo, I doubt if Bobo comes back. And I think we're still trying to figure out who Bobo is as a player. I don't know what he is as a player. When I saw Phoenix sign him, I was like, whoa, maybe, they got designs for him, but that wasn't the case. And guys like Shaquille O'Neal think he's such a talent, but it hasn't come to fruition. So I don't know what it is with Bobo. I really can't say. And then a guy like Thaddeus Young, who I think is on his last leg, making over $1 million. I don't see him coming back. And then you got guys with player options like Eric Gordon, who didn't exactly shine in this series, but a team would pick him up for what he does. He's kind of instant offense, so I'm sure he'll find a place. A guy like Josh Okogie, who's not even making $3 million. Maybe he goes elsewhere. Damian Lee, that's another one. Maybe he goes back to Golden State. Who knows? And Drew Eubanks, I would think he would not exercise his player option and try and go and see where he can land. So Phoenix is another team in not really a great position now. So especially with these upstarts in the West now. So definitely it's not looking good for Phoenix or Lakers at this point, as everything constitutes. With that said, you have a series now. The number 2 Denver Nuggets, defending champs, up against the number 3 Minnesota Timberwolves. I think this is going to be a rough and tumble series, guys. I think it goes the distance 7. I want to say, well, before I say that, key matchups. I think Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, a steady diet of him, maybe Christian Brown, maybe Justin Holiday. I think those guys will probably have the assignment of trying to neutralize Anthony Edwards. Whether they could do it or not, we'll see. Tavius Caldwell-Pope, we know he's a 3-and-D guy, so he'll have the top assignment. So we'll see what he can do with this young man here. And then I think up front, guys, Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert. I think them versus the Joker, of course, and Aaron Gordon. I think whoever gets the best in terms of those combinations there, I think that'll play a huge role in this series. And then this is kind of below the radar. Mike Conley versus Jamal Murray. If Jamal Murray comes back to this series and he's the healthy Jamal Murray that we're used to seeing, then I definitely think the pendulum swings in Denver's favor. That's for sure. And then again, you got the X factor of a guy like Michael Porter Jr., who's out there as well. So, yeah, but definitely we'll see what happens there. But my prediction, guys, I'm saying Denver in 7. Denver in 7. But if Jamal Murray isn't healthy, then I think it could be Minnesota in 6. So I think we need to keep an eye on that. With that said, let us move on. The number 1 seed, the Oklahoma City Thunder, going up against the 8 seed, New Orleans Pelicans. They offered no resistance, guys. Oklahoma City Thunder sweeps this series. I'm not surprised at all for the Thunder. Once again, point differential. They were over 15 points better than the New Orleans Pelicans. And oh, by the way, they held them to the lowest scoring average amongst all the teams. So it was Oklahoma City's defense pretty much ruling the day. And of course, the Thunder are led by their MVP candidate, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who had an outstanding series. Jalen Williams, of course, their second-year forward, who's been sensational. Chet Holmgren, their rookie, he's been solid as well, especially inside. So those guys. And I was listening to my man Antonio Daniels. He does color commentary for the New Orleans Pelicans. And he said this about this team. This is a young team, but they have a maturity about them. They have such a maturity, how they go about their business. And I think that's a byproduct of their coach, of course. Guy who's coach of the year in my eyes. And I believe the vote went out and he did get it. So Mark Daignault, definitely he has this team primed and ready to do big things in these playoffs. and they're starting off very well. And they didn't play around in this series. They took care of business in their home, and then going to New Orleans and handling their business there. How they won the series? I think it was defense, 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 guys. I told you they averaged under 90 points. In today's NBA, that's saying something for you to hold these guys under like that. And then, of course, SGA all day. He's their catalyst. He's their leader, and as he goes, the team follows. So definitely, that those were keys to me. How the Pelicans lost this series? No Zion. He pulled a hamstring in that play-in game. We haven't seen him since. So I think you had him for this series, we still be talking about them playing, but that wasn't the case, guys. And it's unfortunate because I thought this team could have gave up some resistance if they had a guy like Zion Williamson. But nonetheless, what can you do? And Brandon Ingram, he was subpar, guys. They put they stuck Lou Dort on him, and it was in the story, man. He put him on lock. And then horror shooting from guys like Herbert Jones. Sorry about that, guys. I had a visitor here. Herbert Jones, and then Trey Murphy III. That's not going to get it done. What's next for the Pelicans, guys? What to do with Brandon Ingram? He's making $36 million for next year, and then you'll have to think about re-signing him. So I think possibly maybe he's on the move this offseason. You need a healthy Zion. That's very important to what happens with this team. And then you have free agents like Jonas Valanciunas, who's getting over $15 million a year. I think he goes elsewhere. Najee Marshall, who's not even making $2 million, and Jose Alvarado. What do you do with him? He's a guy who's not making, and they have a team option on him, which I think the team will exercise it and maybe keep him in the fold because he's one of those guys. He's pesky. He can get in there, defend, and you definitely like to have guys like that on your roster. So, and then consider this too. They're ninth in salary, guys, the New Orleans Pelicans. So, the guys are getting paid over there. So, but I wouldn't be, I would say I wouldn't be too worried, but Zion just holds the key over there. Do they still want to deal with? He was healthy for the most part this season, guys. Can't take that away from him. But when they needed him, guys, he wasn't there. That's what irks me. But we'll see what happens. And then a series that just ended, guys. The LA Clippers taking on the Dallas Mavericks. Clippers the 4 seed, Mavericks the 5 seed, and then the Mavericks take care of business, finishing this series in 6 games, 4 games to 2. And this is how it shook out, guys. First game, I was like, looked like the Clippers are poised and ready, guys. They won that 109-97 in a game where James Harden came to play, guys. He balled that first game. And then game 2, Dallas stole on the Clippers floor, 96-93, in a game where Kawhi actually played in that game, and then he played the subsequent game, and then after that, no Kawhi. He only played 2 games in this series, guys. Then going back to Dallas, Dallas handles their business in game 3, 101-90. And then in game 4, the Clippers come back and win that, evening up the series, 116-111. And then Dallas goes back to LA and they grabbed the game there in a blowout, guys. 123-93, blowing them out by 30. And then in game 6, on their home court, Dallas wins 114-101. And for Dallas, I think it's pretty simple formula. Luka Doncic leading the way, averaging nearly a triple-double with his nearly 30 points, 9.5 assists, and nearly 9 rebounds. Kyrie Irving was sensational in this series, guys. You just can't sugarcoat it. He was sensational in the closeout game. He was, and I watched. That's a game I watched. He was sensational. You can't take anything away from him. He was sensational, averaging 26.5 points in the series and just being a monster. For the Clippers side, James Harden. Hey, listen, gotta give him credit. He led the way for this team. He 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 did the best he could. That's all I can say about James Harden. I don't think you could put this at the feet of James Harden. He did all he could. Paul George, another story. Didn't shoot it all that great in this series, guys. Didn't average 20 points per game. He had very hot and cold spurts in this series. Avika Zubac, I thought he should have dominated this series, guys. Over 16 points. He hadn't even averaged 10 rebounds. I thought he should have been grabbing double-doubles each and every night, given the inability of Dallas inside. But that's a story for another day. And then Kawhi, like I said, he only played the 2 games, averaging 12 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 steals. That's not going to get it done. How Dallas won the series, of course, like I said, Luka and Kyrie. And winning the turnover battle, too, guys. Clippers had 73, while the Mavericks 62 for the series. How the Clippers lost the series? Hey, you don't have Kawhi healthy for the whole series. That's going to hurt you. And then awful field goal shooting, guys. Only 43.4% from the field, as opposed to Dallas, who was 46.5. Big difference. What's next for the Clippers? Well, you've invested in Kawhi for the next 3 seasons at over $50 million per season. This is a guy who's got bad knees, and you made that investment in him. Steve Ballmer, that's a hefty investment for a guy with his medical record. That's an investment. But that's what he's done. So, and then looking to lock in Ty Lue for the future, because right now, but then if you're Ty Lue, do you want to stay in this situation, or do you want to go over there to the Lakers, Coach LeBron and those guys? Seems like that's a better situation. Seems. I don't know if I go all the way saying it's a better situation. Well, at least your top 2 guys, you have that, but you have to build the pieces around it. So we'll see if Ty Lue wants to stay in LA. Either way, he'll stay in LA if he goes to Lakers, but you know what I mean. And then free agency, Paul George, he can be a free agent. He has a player option over close to $49 million if he opts in. James Harden at 35.6. I say it's safe to say this is his last big contract like that. He'll get money now, guys. He's not washed, so I think he has a place somewhere in this league. Where he goes, we'll see. I know a lot of guys want to kill him as far as his playoff performances goes. You can't kill him for this series. You really can't. He played the best he could in this series, given the hand he was dealt. PJ Tucker, he has a player option. I think he opts in, but I think the team, I think they've washed their hands of PJ Tucker. I don't think he comes back. A guy like Mason Plumlee, he's get $5 million, and then Russell Westbrook, does he come back to this situation making $4 million with a player option? We'll see. But the Clippers, they got big decisions to make, guys, and from the coach to the actual players that you have. So, and by the way, they were second in salary. Those Clippers were for last year. So, with that said, guys, the conference semifinals, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the number 1 seed, against the number 5 seed, the Dallas Mavericks. Key matchups for me, I said this and then my son-in-law laughed at me, but what can you do? Josh Giddey versus Luka Doncic. I know, people will bristle at this, but Josh Giddey actually has the size and the length to deal with Luka Doncic. Will he totally nullify him? I doubt that. Can he bother him in this series? I think he can if he plays proper defense on him. I think he can. So I don't see this as a far-fetched matchup where Luka totally dominates. And then you have SGA versus Kyrie. I think that'd be a tantalizing matchup if they're able to be matched up on each other in this series. Oh, I definitely pay money to see that. And then also Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams versus PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford. I think OKC has the advantage right here in this matchup. I say this matchup here, if OKC can dominate those guys there who are less than nowhere on the caliber of those two guys, I think that helps OKC a great deal in the series. And then watch for the benches of these two teams. I think that it's kind of flying below the radar there, but I think that could be a difference maker in this series also. But my prediction, and I really went back and forth, guys. I think it's OKC by the slimmest of margins. I think it goes 7 games. I think it does. What scares me is having closers like Luka and Kyrie. That scares me in a 7-game series. So I'm saying OKC, but I'm nervous about it, guys. But if they can win this series, I think that would tell us if OKC is really for real, if they can win this series here. So we'll see what happens. So, guys, that is your two conference semifinal matchups there. So we'll see what happens, guys. And then I did want to talk. Maybe I'll save this. Yeah, I'll save this for when I talk about the Eastern Conference. Yeah, because we got a lot going on here. All right, guys. So, as always, I thank you for listening. You know how to get at me. The website, allthingsbasketballwithgd.com. That's the website. Of course, I'm on YouTube, All Things Basketball GD. Also, on Instagram, I'm there heavy, All Things Basketball with GD. That's the name there. Also, TikTok, I do my shorts there and whatnot. On all the socials, other socials, I'm there. Twitter, you know how I feel about Twitter. And then support the show, guys. Support it. You can do it at my website. I got a PayPal button there. I got a Spotify button where you can support. Buy me a coffee. You can do it there. And then my Cash App, gdthatsportsdude, $ gdthatsportsdude. That's how you support the show. All right, with that said, I'm out here, sunny Cancun, guys. About to check out the Denver, Minnesota game, which will be kicking off pretty soon. But until then, guys, deuces.